weren't kids who grew up playing Little League together. They grew up in beautiful homes. They were living what's rapidly becoming the young person's rap version of the American dream. They were living their life.
So what was the turning point, inside when you really saw that, hey man, I can go home, this is going to be a game changer for me?
There's multiple, you know what I mean? There's always, I can't just pinpoint one section because there's so much that I can, gravitate and just grab this, and it's like helping out through, I think the massive one was probably going in and realizing, once Davis, I guess, left office and he was kicked out of office, I think that was a turning point for a lot of lifers. We're like, oh my God, we have a chance to go home now. And it was just given to me. It's like, hey man, don't get a write-up. Don't get a fucking write-up. It's like, you get a write-up, tax those extra years on. And then so what was the turning point was this. It was like going to board in 2005, so I had a life sentence. And I had nothing going to 2005. I had like I had the GED, and didn't even have a trade under my belt yet, And so they say you need this, just to meet these requirements to go home, So you want those requirements, but you want to double those requirements, and then you want to triple those requirements, and then all of a sudden people are saying, well, you're an overachiever. That's how the board will look at it. Well, you're an overachiever. You got too many. Like, why are you doing all this stuff?
Like, overachiever.
Yeah. Why are you? And it's like, well, because if I was in society, actual norm, I'm gonna progress to be better than I was yesterday. So anything that I can take to grow and be better, I was doing that, and I did in that environment. And we were talking about haters. We talk about people who don't like it. You get sabotaged all the time. Your cell gets hit. Weird little kites get dropped on you, and you're like, what the fuck? You end up starting to facilitate. You get a group of lifers. You know what I mean? You go in for lifer meetings. And you're being able to sit on the boards, and you start doing these things, and you start gravitating to the positive effects inside prison. But then you start realizing some of the lifers don't even want you to succeed because they see an opportunity that you have where they fucked up on from back in the days. Because it sucks, man. Like, seriously, back in the 70s and stuff like that, some dudes who were doing time and through the 80s, like, you had to put in some serious effing work. Like, those dudes, like, you can talk to people for years, and you have guys on your show, what I mean, who've done time and stuff like that, and in that time of stage is like, that's a whole different era. Like, I could never put myself back in that era because I never wanted to be back in that era. And I never wanted to be that type of person. I didn't want to be a guy who was a shot caller. I didn't want to, and don't take me that wrong, because it's okay. If people want to do that, then they can do that. That's their business, That wasn't my cup of tea. And my thing was coming home, you know what I mean? We're sitting in freaking Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Dude, it's 78 degrees in Santa Monica, man. Or I could be sitting in a fucking cell somewhere eating top ramen soup with a piece of bologna in it.
Yeah.
I mean, then we fucking were great spreads though, weren't they?
Man,
no, just joking.
I look at some of that stuff now. Did I eat this shit?
Right?
Oh, tuna fish with squeezed cheese in it.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked to her about it. It's funny. It's like I would never I don't understand the concept of guys coming home and like, I made a spread for my chick, and you're like, I'm surprised she hasn't left you. Dude. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm sorry. But I feel the turning points, there's so many, Herc, you know what I mean? There's so many, like, I can say, like, there's times those epiphanies that just happen. Like, you see shit that goes down, and you see things that happen, and you just go, I don't want this. I don't want this for my life. Like, this is not me. This is not who I am. The violence, the stupid shit fighting over fucking water fountains. Whose seat is that? It's for movie night.
Yeah. Somebody move your chair.
Yeah.
Who moved his chair?
Yeah, who moved the chair?
That's right there. That's it.
Whose pad is that? Hey man, don't touch my fucking pad. You're like, oh God, here we go. And it's like, movie night's over. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's your only time of somewhat escaping, somewhat of finding an out to find that reality of like, oh, because no matter what, it could be a fucking cartoon, and every male dude is there like this, watching that movie.
And when you talk about movie night, I remember Lompoc had a theater, so like you felt like you were at a theater, but this theater, the white sat over here, the Crips sat over here, the Blood sat here, GD sat here, Light King sat here, the other sat over here. So don't sit and do you walk? Oh, like this dude walking like
And they all look at you.
Yeah, like, they're like, dude, you're in the wrong area.
The weird thing is when you came down to day room or whatever, I mean, because, you know, when you're living in cells on 4s and 3s and stuff like that, 3s you were able to, you know, move in days and down there and turn on big screen TV, or you sit in your cell and watch it, you know? And in state, you know, you're able to get a TV and stuff like that. I don't know if Fed, I don't think Feds, you didn't have TV.
A lot of people got fucked up over
TVs, right?
You don't touch the TV.
You don't touch TV. So, and that's the same thing, you don't touch TV. And I still couldn't believe like how, and I'm sorry if anybody watches the shows nowadays, I'm like, fuck, dude, how many times have they watched Jerry Springer? Like more.
No, what about Cops?
God, fuck, dude.
Dude, I come in watching Cops, and I'm like,
what?
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I'm like,
I come in from a law library and everybody's watching Cops, two, 3 TVs.
Yeah,
I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's like, and this is where your mind is going. It's like,
dude, you guys
and they're laughing about, like, dude, look at that fucking idiot getting caught. I'm like, dude, you're sitting right here in fucking prison.
Like, you know, I don't get that.
Yeah,
dude, it used to drive me crazy. That's why I said, man, why the fuck am I here? Yeah. Let me get out, please. Get me the fuck out of here, man. My God, man.
So to answer the topic, I know I've answered it a few times, but it's like there's no way to pinpoint the exact moments. Okay. The pinpoint exact moments is like changing my life, probably just knowing that I wanted to go home. I think that's the fact. I think, how do I go home? How do I give back in that environment and try to stop that ripple effect that I created so much pain, I think. I mean, I think that's the factor, to hear the victim's family talk about you and knowing that you knew the victim's family and knowing that situation, knowing that you knew Nicholas before he passed, and the role that you played in it, and the role that, you know, I had part in that. You know, as much as I had such a part in something to take away a young man's life, like, I'd be a fucking idiot to go in there and think I was gonna start running shit. I mean, or going in that environment to live and just say, fuck it. You know, this is how I'm gonna live my life. I'm just, you know, balls to the wall. I'm gonna be the best convict I'm ever gonna be. I'm gonna fucking live on the yard, play handball all day long.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
I never understood that.
Right, and again, that's
to each his own.
To each his own. To each his
own, man.
And nothing to them. Don't knock. You know what I mean? Hey, man, I'm all for that. I'm all for, you know, playing sports and all that stuff out there on the yard and stuff. But I just knew there's something inside me that was greater. I knew that there was something. You had a big purpose. I had a purpose, and I always said that to myself. You put your shoes on just like the next person. You put your fucking shoes on. You put your pants on the same way as this person. It's just like the president. That fool gets up the same way you get up. I mean, you have a choice to wake up in that environment angry, or you have that choice to wake up happy. And so I chose to live my life happy. I try to wake up every single day understanding it's a choice to roll out of bed to be happy. And if I succumb to the miserable motherfuckers that are in that place, then I'm no better than, you know what I mean? I'm gonna succumb to the environment, what that prison is meant to do: break you, strip you out, make you stand there raw, and never come back to society. And I wasn't gonna be a number or a statistic in that.
And I think that's one, you know, having a conversation with you, man, and talking with you, you know, you would never think that you did that much time. But I mean, I tell people, like, as far as, like, they say, talking about institutionalized, and one of the things that I never accepted in there, like, when they used to call me by the number, and I used to say, no, my name's Mr. Timmons, or you can call me Marcus, and they look at me, and it's like, I'm not a convict, I'm not an inmate, and they like, this dude is crazy, man, because I never bought into that. And a lot of other guys who consider themselves convicts or inmates, you think you all that, but they don't want to run up. You know, I was always watching them, but they'd be like,
we got so big. I mean, because I left prison at like 235, like 240, and it's like I came home, my mom was like, God, your head is so, you look like Pinhead, like, you know, you got a big body in your head, and you're like, you know, and it's like, and then you strip it. Like, that's something that I had to learn how to do. Stop washing your clothes in the shower. Stop taking your fucking stuff. Stop wearing chocolate. Right. Your shit. Right. And this is real. This is something that you have to strip. Like, no one teaches you when you come home. No one teaches you how to do that. I mean, you have to learn that.
Well, you did more time than me. I know when I got out, it was like, I went to Hollywood, off of Hollywood Boulevard. I got a slice of pizza at the little pizza store right there off of Hollywood and whatever's Vine or whatever. And I'm like, damn, man, was it a nightmare? What the fuck, you know? It's like, it was like surreal. I'm like, damn, was I gone that long? It's like crazy.
So after 14 years, I get paroled from Chino, but since the case was so publicized, right, and how bad everything was, you know, I mean, there's still a lot of hatred against me for saying that he doesn't deserve to go home and stuff like that, but that person in the past probably doesn't deserve to go home. You know what I mean? And 100% I'd vote that. Yeah, you know, I fucked up. I used the word coward for myself, and when we were talking about it the other day, and I was a coward for not saving Nicholas, and someone told me that. I said, no, dude, you weren't a coward, dude, you were ignorant. You know, and I was sitting on the yard with this OG who was doing 34, he has got 34 years in, right? And he was telling me, he's like, northern guy, you know, sit on a bench, we do yard work together, and we're sitting there having a cup of coffee. It's like 6:30 in the morning.
You had some crazy conversations on
the
the yard.
great conversations on the yard. And he told me, he's like, you know, you're going to go board pretty soon. I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to board pretty soon. And he's always wears sunglasses. You know, the OG's super, you know, big time cool motherfucker, man. And he was just like, he's like, I read your case. He's like, you weren't a coward, man. He's like, coward is a person that was taught to have all those tools at that time, and then chooses nothing to do. Like you had that chance to save somebody's life, and then you didn't do it. Like you didn't save that person's life, but you had all the tools to do that, and you chose not to do that. That's a coward. You know, you're turning your back on something. He says, you weren't taught to hurt somebody. You come from San Fernando Valley. You come from this, and he starts breaking your life down. You're like, oh my God, I look like, you know what I mean? You're just so transparent in that environment. You know what I mean? And being in that situation, I was pretty vulnerable talking to this dude. And next thing I know, he was just like, you were ignorant, dude. He's like, because you were never taught to handle a situation like that. He's like, and that's a lot of us. You know, when we decide to get in gangs or we start to go on certain things, we gravitate to the things that our conversation that we started to. When what made you not gravitate to this group, or what made you not gravitate, and who was trying to, you know, fucking leeches, man. People who want to leech off who you are and stuff like that. And I just knew, like, right then and there, I was like, damn, dude, like, you're right. I was ignorant, but it was like, at the same time, that was probably one of the massive moments, I think, in my life at that time, sitting on the yard, hearing that. And I remember sitting there and I was like, fuck me. I was like, all right. A month later, he went to boarding, got paroled. After 34 fucking years, he got paroled. And I remember that, and that's when I was like, it's happening. The movement's happening. Things are happening. Things are in waves. Energy's shifting. And I remember I'm meeting a kid. I'll give him his nickname. Give him his name, Fresh, right? He's a Milano. So he moved into a dorm with a bunch of Southerners and stuff like that up I was at that time I was on I got to a level 2, right? But it was still like the secure level 2 and whatever, right? And hated the place, you know, hated the place where I was at. It's like cold showers, you know what I mean? Like, and they'd leave the front doors open, you know what I mean? The wind be coming through, and it's like, you know, you're in Northern California and that shit gets cold as fuck, and everybody's sick, you know what I mean? It's like people are dying of valley fever and shit, you know, and I just remember sitting up there and running this kid, and when my case was already, you know, the movie was already out and all this stuff. This is back in like 2011, 2012 or something, maybe 2013, right before I got shifted. And I run into this kid, and all my buddies used to tease me. They always call me Justin Timberlake, right? So, and it's fucking humbling as hell, right? Because it keeps you grounded, you know, in that environment, because you never want that shit to go big-headed, right? You never like, oh, they made a movie about this, and because it's sad, it's a fucking sad situation. And so your buddies with, you know, the guys, you know, in prison, if you cannot clown with somebody, you can't, like, let's just be honest, if you can't fucking talk shit and be on that level, you know how the sex playing and all that bullshit is, right? You can't handle your own, dude, they're gonna fucking roast you. He's gonna eat you and spit you right out. And that's like, probably like the funniest times. Like sometimes you can just be walking down the stairs like, hey, Timber fake. You know, fuck you guys. You know what I mean? Like, but so they were joking with me, and the kid Fresh was like, he's like, well, you know my buddy Scott. I was like, I don't know who the fuck Scott is. Like, who the fuck, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, he's a, you know, producer, executive producer to Hangover and Project X and all those movies, right? I'm like, I don't give a fuck, whatever, kid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even, like, don't even know what you're talking about. But cool, okay, if that's how we're gonna relate, like, you know, because when new guys come in and they're like, you try to help them out.
You don't know
like,
what their agenda is.
Right, you don't know what their hidden agendas are, right? And so one day I'm on the yard, I'm done working out with my buddy, and we come in. And this kid's like, come here, right? Because we gave him a care package when he first moved into the cell, like over in the pod, because he was with a bunch of dudes that I associate with. And so everybody puts care packages to certain, you know, and you do that. And then so a week goes by or whatever, and he's like, hey, I come in from Yarm, And you know, you coming all buffed out, you know what I mean? Thinking fucking, you know, and the dude's like, come here. And I walk over, and he's like, hey, get on the phone. And it's like, you know, you look at the tower, and the tower's like, oh, I get on the fucking phone. So I get on the phone, and Scott Budnick. And Scott's like, hey, bud, hey, I know everything about you. I know everything about your case, blah, blah. You know who I am? I'm like, I don't know who the hell you are. You know what I mean? I know. And then out of nowhere, he's like, I heard you're in college over there, and you're doing college programs over there and stuff like that. I'm like, yes, yeah. And he's like, hey, you want to start a college program for me down in Chino? And I was like, how the fuck you gonna give me a Chino, motherfucker? You're some fuck are you, right? Yeah. And I never thought, right? And big shout out to ARC and IOW, and if anybody, you know, and I'll put that out there, Anti-Recidivism Coalition and IOW's Inside Out Writers that helps with young kids in YA, teach creative writing. And Scott, fuck, right after Thanksgiving, dude, I hear my name, Jesse Rugge, you know, report to the podium. I go to the podium, like, what's up, man? And I was like, they're like, pack your shit, get the fuck out, you know what I mean? Go take down the, you know, get your shit, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is real, this is happening. I was like, who's this dude? Got this much juice in it? Like, you're not even a freaking, you're produced, you know what I mean?
Who do you call?
Yeah, who do you call, you know? And 2 days later, a weekend goes by, you know, and we ship off on Monday. I get to Chino, and those barracks are totally different. You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole different life. You have a mini yard. You have, like, they have so much open freedom. And I get there. I do about 8 months there, and I'm about to go to board. And I go to board, and that's where the place I paroled from. And so, but you know, the college programs were getting squashed because at that time the warden at Chino was like, "Fuck you guys, you ain't starting shit. Who the fuck is this dude?" And you know, because who's this little, you know, Jewish guy from, you know, the movie business coming in our place and running havoc.
Man, they're cold pieces, bro. I've seen them.
Just like, even the captains and all that stuff. The captains, when they have their own yards and stuff like that, they're like, oh, fuck you, you ain't doing shit, you know? So we kept on getting squashed, and finally they opened up that, you know, the Golden Community College thing, like every prison now should, I think, does have, you know, but at that point it was like, I went to board, and God, I never thought in a million years, because a Marcy law was passed, and I've already been denied, you know, the Marcy law was, you know, denied 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you know what I mean, 15 years, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like you go to board, they can deny you the 2 years or 1 year. Remember that's the old school law. And then, or they can deny you up to 5 years if you're really messing up. And the 3 years is your new 1 year law, you know what I mean? So people try to statistically, like, break it down. That's the way, you know, that's the way you that's how you're doing your time. Like, you know, so it was tough, because it's like, if you got denied 3 years, it's like, oh my God, I got denied 3 years. That's going to put me in 2016. You know what I mean?
Doing
like,
math,
yeah,
like,
and you start doing shit. You're like, damn, that puts me almost 2 decades down. And at that point in time, it was like, you're telling your family, just like, yo, dude, just move on. You know, like, everybody, like, I love you guys. But it was crazy, because it's a blessing. I owe a lot to Scott. And I owe a lot to the program. I owe a lot to ARC, because I think I was like the second lifer to come home out of his program.
So what about the youngster who like, kind of looked out for you?
So he was just only doing like a, you know, turnaround chicken shit stage. Like, wow. But he started in youth authority, and so that's how Scott and him got related to.
Okay.
And so, like, when he came up, it's just because I befriended him. And it was
you
so
never
weird.
know.
And you never know. And it's like, and the thing is, and people who don't know what a Milano is, it's Italian and black, right? And so that's where he's like, oh, Milano, and you're like, oh, what was that? And he describes it to you like, oh, okay, God, I fucking feel like an idiot, but you're like, oh, okay, and he's like, yeah, my mom is, and my dad is, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, and Fresh, I owe a lot to Fresh, and it's so funny because the kid was a youngster. I mean, he was fucking 18 years old. He didn't have to take in and put me on a phone call with this dude. The dude
changed your life.
Yeah, he saw me for who I was. You know what I mean? And it was like, and that's crazy, dude. Like, to be in that environment and for somebody to be so genuine. And that person was just like, hey, man, to meet that dude changed my life. And so, we'll fast forward. So I'm in Chino. I get a date, and I never thought I was going to, you know, you never think. Like, you think, I project, I'm going to get this day, I'm going to get this day. But I remember going in there, and they're like, do you have anything, you know, opening statement. 2013, 2014, okay. Yeah, somewhere. And I remember them saying to me, do you have anything in your opening statement? Do you have anything to say? And I think that's when it was like, you know, the Shawshank Redemption thing. And it's like, you know, you say so much and you can't say anything at all after a while.
You're exhausted.
And finally this time I just went in there and I was like, dude, I'm fucking guilty. I'm guilty of freaking the man digging the grave, this person pulling the trigger, this person that. I am guilty of all that. That is me. Regardless of fencing of the fact that I wasn't found guilty of those situations, I'm guilty by that. I'm guilty because of these situations. And I just broke it down. And it's like explaining responsibility, you know what I mean, is tough. Mm-hmm. What was your responsibility in that situation when, as much as you don't want to believe you had that big of a responsibility in that, committing the crime I'm talking about here.
Your involvement.
Your involvement. And you realize how much you were involved and how much you played that fact and how much that you stripped away people's lives. And that's when, you know, I was messed up probably for the Markowitz family to hear that, because I think that was the first time them ever hearing that come out of my mouth. And then I remember going back, and then after that I tripped up. There was questions being asked, and I couldn't even answer some of the questions because they were so, like, you're so emotionally, so like being put on the spot. It's like you feel like you're being retried again, but you're not. You know, what I mean, you have to take it as understand it's not being retried. You're going in there, you know, you're going in there. There's no new evidence being presented if you don't have a 115. There's nothing against you. All you're doing is presenting who you are today. You're presenting yourself in the raw. Mm-hmm. All the paperwork's there, all your college programs, all your college, you know, your degrees and stuff like that, which you've earned through those years of 14 years being in prison. And, you know, 3 trades, being certified in things, being, you know, what do you do now? Well, I work on yard crew, or, you know, I'm a trustee now, but this is my college program that I do over here, and this is what I do over here, this is how I give back. And, you know, I work for these, you know what I mean? You work, you take on so much.
Kind of showing, defining your character.
Right, and it's tough in that environment because we touch bases on it. Like, you go into the law and dude saying, fuck you should do your fucking time, you know what I mean? Like, why you know, doing that? And there's, so I remember going back and the attorney that I had, because I give you a C-. And I was like, all right, you give me a C-, like, it wasn't that bad. He's like, yeah, you tripped up on some of your words. He's like, next time he's like, look, man, they deny you 3 years, I'll be back in 3 years. You know, we'll go through some stuff, you know, and you're just gonna get better in those 3 years. And we come back, and I kind of knew, like, I felt like I was gonna be denied because I was the only one going to board that day. Between a period of like 1:30, count times at 4, you're crushing you're crushing that time.
Right before count.
Yeah, right before count, and I'm just knowing that I'm like, fuck, man, like, I'm gonna have to get on the phone after this and like tell my family. And then, when I came back in, they start the rhetoric, you know, like, I don't know law, right? That's one thing I only studied what a 209 was, right? Because I was aggravated kidnap, that's what I got convicted of. And I was found not guilty of the murder. But so they start reading off this stuff, and my attorney leans into me and goes, congratulations, you just got found suitable. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, right? And when they said it, like, when I looked at him, because I don't understand what they're saying, but right when he said, Mr. Rugge, today we find you suitable for parole, and I literally vomited probably snot, right? Because you're trying to fucking hold back. Like, I have no problem. Dude, I bawled like a baby. Like it just left. Like, everything, like, was just like,
all that pent up.
Like there's no, like, wait, this is a dream. And the person who handed me the tissues was the lady that was, like, you know, victims, like a woman who would help the victims. And she was with them through day one, you know, through the Markowitz family. They were there. She was there for the support thing, right? And I remember it, she handed me the tissues, and it was almost like her letting me know, like, you know, congratulate, like, almost like it's like a weird passing, like, instead of just, because you get so much negative stare and so much hatred, you can feel the vibe. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you should, you know what I mean? But to have that happen, and then it was some weird surreal moment, then yard happened. I mean, like, you know, count time happened, and I'm sitting by myself on front, locked in a cage, sitting there on a bench, and people start walking to chow, and I'm sitting there watching these lines, and it was a surreal moment of just like, not much longer, not much longer, not much. And I'm sitting there like watching, and people are like, "What's up, fool? What's up?" I'm like, "Oh, man," like,
you don't say
you don't want to say nothing.
No,
like, and I'm like, I'll tell you later, man. And they're like, fuck, you got denied. And I was like, I just don't want to talk about it right now, you know? And I remember finally the cop, after they go to chow, they're like, do you want to go to chow? I was like, no, I don't want to go to chow. And they're like, all right. And I went into my and cops know already what's going on, who got suitable. Like, you know, they know.
Yeah, they already got the scoop.
They already got the scoop. So when I go back, the cop's like, you want to use his phone? I was like, yeah. So, and luckily enough, man, I was able to, you know, get in there and put a phone call in and tell my mom and tell my family, and very emotional time. And then, of course, you know, they send me to an inbound hearing. You know, like, you don't automatically just get a date. You know what I mean? They send it back up to Sacramento, and it's another hearing that you're not present for, but your family gets to be present this time. Because in regular board, for people who don't know this, when you're trying to go home, it's the victim's family, or the people who committed the crime against, is there. The DA who probably sentenced you or got you convicted, and then it's just you and your attorney, and then whatever you present from what you've built up in your case file in state prison. And that's your, like, basically that's what you're going in with. So it feels one-sided. It feels very, you know, your family's not there. All they can do is write letters for you. You know what I mean? Put a pamphlet together and put this massive, like, your plan of your next 3 years.
So you're
in
absentee.
Right, you're basically. But when you go to the inbound hearing in Sacramento, your family actually gets to go and represent you. And they get to talk for you. But it's only 5 family members. They get to talk, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like a battle. So, but instead of having 2 board members at your situation, you have all 12 board members up there at that time. So now everybody sits up there and has an opinion. And the hardest thing probably for my mom to hear was like, you know, your son should have been home 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And that's like, because when they found me suitable at the in-bank hearing, one of the people said, your son, for what he's done inside their environment, like, to be able to walk through that and stay so monotone, you know what I mean, and to
not
do
getting
that,
into the bullshit,
right? And your son should have been like,
wow.
And almost like it's like it was crazy because I didn't get to hear it, so I was like on pins and needles all day, like, you know, you're waiting for I always tease her, like, I'm waiting with bells on, you know, I do the shimmy dance, you know what I mean? Yeah, and it was a trip because I was sitting there, and I get on the phone and my mom goes, "What do you want to be for Halloween?" And I was like, and I was just like, I leaned back and I said, "Damn." And my niece, I came home, I left, my niece was not even 1. I came home on her birthday, October 22nd. She was 14 years old. So I remember walking in, and at the time, I you know, I had a great woman with me. I came home to, and at that time, it was weird because it wasn't about you. And I realized after doing all that time, I came home to my niece's 14, and I went to a birthday party for a 14-year-old girl at my mom's house, and to be in that environment, like, and it was my day, like, you're just thinking it's your day, and it's not, and it's just like, but all the family's there, and I said one thing to my mom over the phone, I said, don't have anybody talk to me about fucking prison. I don't want to hear anything about prison, please. This is Erica's day, this is, you know, this is hers, you know, and they didn't, but the glow, you know what I mean, like, you sit there and you look through people's eyes and you go, oh man, I fucking made it.